The Back to the Future trilogy is a masterclass in foreshadowing and payoffs, and here are 10 story clues from throughout the franchise that you probably missed. All 3 Back to the Future movies contain small connections that show just how well thought out the trilogy was, with nearly every piece of the time travel puzzle fitting together perfectly. However, casual Back to the Future fans may not realize the true extent of these story clues, with all kinds of minor details showing exactly where the story of the trilogy is going. 1985's Back to the Future is considered to have one of the tightest scripts of all time, with it being incredibly impressive just how meticulous the writers were when plotting out the 3-movie arc. As all time travel movies do, Back to the Future has some plot holes and unresolved mysteries, but the team behind the franchise has attempted to reconcile each one. However, these small discrepancies pale in comparison to just how much foreshadowing the films contain, and here are 10 of the best moments from throughout the trilogy. Back to the Future's first major bit of foreshadowing occurs in the very first scene of the film, with one of the many items that Doc Brown owns showing exactly how the film will end. One of the most apparent details regarding Doc Brown's belongings is the vast array of clocks that he owns, with one clock being reminiscent of a scene from the 1923 film Safety Last. The clock portrays a man hanging from a clock tower, and by the end of the film, viewers will realize that this perfectly parallels Doc Brown's fate. While attempting to send Marty back to the year 1985, Doc Brown makes a mistake and winds up hanging from the famous Hill Valley Clock Tower. This scene is almost identical to the situation that is portrayed on the Safety Last clock, with Back to the Future showing its hand at the very beginning of the film. A newspaper clipping explains how Doc Brown has so much money set up and paid off in Back to the Future. Throughout the Back to the Future franchise, it is made clear that Doc Brown is an incredibly rich man, with him owning multiple properties and being able to invest all kinds of money into wacky sci-fi inventions. However, the Back to the Future trilogy never explicitly explains why he has so much money, with it only being made clear to eagle-eyed viewers who pay attention to the franchise's small details. Back to the Future shows that Doc Brown kept newspaper clippings about his wealth, with them being seen in the background. One of these clippings discusses an inventor dealing in real estate, with this possibly being one source of Brown's money. On top of that, another clipping discusses Brown's mansion burning down sometime before 1985, with the insurance money from this disaster potentially making Doc Brown a very rich man. The Statler family has its own BTTF background story. Set up in Back to the Future, paid off in Back to the Future Part 3. Statler Fine Horses sign in Back to the Future Part 3. The Back to the Future franchise chronicles the stories of 2 families throughout the decades, with those being the McFlys and the Tannins. However, there is one other recurring family that many Back to the Future fans don't know about, with that being the Statlers. First seen in the original Back to the Future, Statler Toyota is one of the many businesses in Hill Valley in 1985. However, the 1955 timeline reveals a little more about the family, with the business becoming Statler Studebaker when Marty goes back in time. The Statler setup is paid off in Back to the Future Part 3, with the Statler business still existing in 1885. Instead of selling cars, however, Honest Joe Statler was a business that sold horses, with this reveal being teased all the way back in the first Back to the Future film.